Shut up, Smarks. Ring Rust Redux. No, I won't tap out. I won't tap out. All of you butthurt suck. Just stop watching Raw. Stop watching Raw. Now part of the Club Kayfabe creative community. If you want to vote on this year's Top 50 Countdown, chances are you're a member of a wrestling Facebook page that I've already posted it on. All you gotta do is do a search for it. Just do a search for Ring Rust, I guess, on that page to see if it comes up. If not, you can just go to the CHMR's Ring Rust Facebook page itself, click on like if you haven't already, and click on the cover photo, and then comment on that, and that's the best place for the easiest place for me to get the actual votes. So, starting things off, week 4, and therefore the conclusion of Ultima Lucha Trace, hashtag Ultima Lucha 3, or which would be Trace as well, because Trace is 3 in Spanish. And anyway, which could also, unfortunately, be the very last Lucha Underground. Because I posted something to the CHMR's Ring Rust Facebook page talking about how this may Ultimate Lucha Trace may or may not end up being the end of Lucha Underground, depending on whether or not the new investors are willing to pay enough to run the next season. So you can go to the CHMR's Ring Rust Facebook page and go look for it yourself. There is, though, unfortunately, very good. I don't know about a good chance, but there's talk of new investors, which is good news. But there's also talk of those investors not willing to pay as much. So having a less budget is probably a bad idea for production values and whatnot. So, well, independent promotions do more with less, I guess. So, and Lucha Underground does have the added. What word do I want to use for it? Added. Gimmick, I guess, for lack of a better term, that they actually do have set seasons. They have they have the first half of a season and the second half of a season, and then they're off for a couple of months. So we'll see what happens. I mean, just keep an eye on the Lucha Underground website and the El Rey website and Lucha Underground's Twitter account, and I'm sure they'll tell us everything we need to know when we need to know it. You're listening to Ring Rust Redux on Jabronology TV. So, on to the results of Ultima Lucha Trace, Week 4, and the conclusion. So, in a steel cage match, Matanzo Cueto took on El Dragon Azteca Jr., who did win the match initially by escaping the cage, but then Dario Cueto said, oh no, fam, ain't happening like that. The only way to win this match now is pinfall submission. You can't escape the cage. Because, El Dragon Azteca Jr. escaped the cage to win the match, and then Dario Cueto, being the boss, changed the rules so his brother would win, and then, bammo, his brother won. Matanzo Cueto won the steel cage match. So, it also seemed like a short match. I don't know, I've never really timed a cage match before. It seemed like 10 minutes wasn't really a long time. I mean, there was a lot in that 10 minutes, but, and I wasn't disappointed with the match. It just seemed quick to me. I don't know. So, at any rate, decently thug-tastic and smack-tastic match. You're listening to Ring Rust Redux on Jabronology TV. So next up we had Mil Muertes with Katrina in his corner, taking on Cage and Jeremiah Crane in the Gauntlet of Gods 3-way elimination match to win the Gauntlet of the Gods. So, Mil Muertes came out on top of that one and won the Gauntlet. I guess. I'm not really sure. It's supposed to be I'm not really sure what the backstory is behind the Gauntlet of the Gods. It's supposed to help raise some demon or something. It's what they seem to be hinting at. with the various very interesting actors that they bring in to represent the people who brought us the Gauntlet of the Gods. So we'll see how that plays out. You're listening to Ring Rust Redux on Gerbranology TV. And finally, in the main event, Prince Puma defeated Johnny Mundo to win the Lucha Underground Championship in a title versus career match. But, just in case you thought Dario Cueto was done for the night, no. He came out and said, "Oh, no, we're not done yet. This is the final match." Currently in the ring, Lucha Underground champion Prince Puma, and on his way to the ring, cashing in his Gift of the Gods championship, Pentagon Dark, in a loser leaves Lucha Underground match for the Lucha Underground championship. So, I and probably thousands of other fans didn't know what to think of what was going on while I was watching it. And then all of a sudden, boom, a guy who 5 minutes previous had won the title was in another title match with his career once again on the line. But it was all or nothing for both of them. Whoever won had the title and a job. So, and whoever lost didn't have a title and didn't have a job. So it was the whole show was very smacktastic, you know. So, I mean, Matanza Cueto in a steel cage. Mil Muertes in pretty much any match. And then, you know, Pentagon Dark winning the Lucha Underground Championship and costing Prince Puma his career. The guy who, on commentary by Matt Stryker, he actually started his career in Lucha Underground and ended his career in Lucha Underground. Not necessarily, I guess, that he's, you know, that's just loser leaves Lucha Underground. It's not necessarily he can't wrestle anymore anywhere else. I don't know, can he? I don't know. And then, of course, towards the end of the match, Vampiro, man, got up and actually did something. I mean, you don't often see commentators getting up and doing anything. I mean, recently you've seen announcers doing things, but, you know, not so much commentators. Except if they're Michael Cole, and they're doing a very, very bad job of it by, you know, being Michael Cole, and then probably for other equally valid reasons. But the whole thing it just, of course, kept getting more intense, and it just escalated from an already super smacktastic match to even more and more and more, and then it just came to a crescendo, and the whole thing was an amazing show if you haven't seen it. And of course, you gotta watch it right to the end, because there's some video at the end of it, and then to be continued, which hopefully is true, but we'll find out, I guess. And if nothing else, it elevated also my opinion of Lucha Underground as well, and all the competitors on it. The Club Kayfabe Creative Community, bringing together creative people from all walks of life and giving them a platform to show off their talents. Podcasters, artists, cosplayers, authors. Check out all the information about Club Kayfabe Creative Community at ckcconline.com. So now, after the conclusion of Ultima Lucha Trace, it's on to TLC, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, the pre-preview on the WWE Network, Raw brand show coming from the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So we got 7 matches, starting with the pre-show, which they announced just recently. Will be Alicia Fox and her brand new t-shirt. There for a decade, she's finally got a t-shirt. Taking on Sasha Banks. So I think the writing is kind of clear on the wall for this one as to who's likely to win. So I guess I'll just say that. You know, as much as I might like Alicia Fox, she's certainly one of the pretty ones, certainly. And she's not great, but she's workable in the ring, I think. She's not. I've never heard of anyone getting injured because of her, so that's certainly a good thing. When it comes to being a wrestler, it's good to not hurt your opponents. So, still though, I still think that sky's the limit for Sasha Banks in this particular match. You're listening to Ring Rust REDUX on Gerbernology TV. Now part of the Club Kayfabe creative community. So back to the pre-preview of TLC on the WWE Network. Next up, I'm not going to take them in the exact order that they are on the Wikipedia page, because what they seem to do with the Wikipedia page is, like, they'll do the kickoff match, and then the next match will be, a lot of times it'll be the main event. Not in this case, but it's almost, I don't know what to, don't really know what to think of the order of this match, so I'm just going to take them in whatever order I feel not necessarily is going to happen in, but just to, well, because there's 3 women's matches, and there's 7 matches, so, you know, I really should split them up. Put a non-women's match in between each women's match, just for the sake of variety, I guess. I don't know. So, next up, Finn Balor as the Demon will be taking on Bray Wyatt as Sister Abigail. So, it's interesting what they've been doing with this angle. I don't know if that's the way they explained it or the way I figured it was, the way I felt it is that somewhere in his childhood, Bray Wyatt, the character anyway, well, who knows, maybe, I don't think so, but potentially also the guy playing Bray Wyatt, but I think for the most part, the character of Bray Wyatt, when he was a child, identified as female. And he lived in a place or at a time where such things were frowned upon for boys to act like girls or girls to act like boys. But, you know, and he, as he said in the promo, he buried, you know, Sister Abigail died. So it's to say that he, you know, buried the Sister Abigail persona, as it were, within himself, and now she's coming back out. So when he said that Sister Abigail was dead, she was dead to the world, but not dead to him. So she was still deep inside him, waiting for the right opportunity to come out, if ever. It's entirely possible he might have went his whole life without Sister Abigail coming out, but Finn Balor, he had to go bring the demon into it, so you know, it's really your fault, Finn Balor, for bringing out Sister Abigail. So we'll see how that plays out, I guess. A little bit of Psycho, I guess. A little bit of what else is there? What other movies and TV shows or whatever is like that? Where someone, well, I guess the Halloween movies, I suppose. You know, the mother dressing up as the son and killing teenagers. So I guess a little bit of all of it, I suppose, all thrown in just in time for Halloween. Ding. I do see that Sister Abigail is probably gonna, I don't know though. Yeah, it could go either way. I predict though Sister Abigail's gonna win the match anyway, if not the war. We'll see how far the war goes. The war may end with this match. Who knows? But I suspect we'll all be broken out in love just watching the match.
This is the Great Cat Guitar Slamming Wrestling News Radio on Ring Rust, CHMR 93.5 FM.
Wow, that's a man kiss.
Pure electricity in my pants.
Oh my.
Ooh, sprechen Sie sexy.
You're listening to Ring Rust REDUX on Gerbernology TV. Now part of the Club Kayfabe creative community. So next up, we have another foregone conclusion match, and it's also a women's match. So, actually, are all the women's matches foregone conclusions? Not really. The third one isn't. The women's title match isn't, but we'll get to that a little later. But the other women's match, which is a foregone conclusion, features Asuka making her Raw main roster debut against pretty much anybody, and that person would lose. That woman would lose. Hey, that man would lose, probably. If Asuka's going to be behaving the same way in WWE she's been behaving in NXT, whoever they put her against is going to lose. Ironically, the one woman who gave her much of a run for her money, as much of a run for her money as any of the other women probably combined in NXT, Nia Jax, is actually now taking some time off. So we'll see how that plays out as well. Could be. I don't know, there might be something down the line. Nia Jax comes back. No one's ready for Asuka. Oh no, it's Nia Jax. Is she ready for Asuka? Boot. I guess she wasn't ready for Asuka. Anyway. No one seems to actually be ready for Asuka, so she's just saying no one's ready for Asuka, and turns out being true. So she's one of those rare people that says they're going to do something and then does it. So, yep. So anyway, the technicality of it is she's going up against Emma, who for some reason, forgetting the fact that she had faced Asuka in NXT, I guess this time for sure presto. And she reaches back into the magic hat to see if she pulls out a lion head this time. I don't know. Well, then again, Emma's a little bit moon-brained in that she's like taking credit for things that she shouldn't be taking credit for, and naming her own accomplishments and all that kind of stuff, and just sort of it plays well, I suppose. For her being a villain, I suppose it plays well for her to be talking smack about her opponents and saying how much better she is than all of her opponents, and so getting all her hashtags trending. I don't know if that actually ever worked, but so like I said, foregone conclusion. In other words, I guess I'll be playing Guns N' Roses in the three-way dance-off again next week to congratulate Asuka on her Raw main roster debut, or her main roster debut. I'll stop talking. It's that time of year again. Time to get in your votes for the Ring Rust year-end Top 50 Countdown, where I run down my favorite and your favorite wrestling-related songs and wrestling entrance themes from 50 all the way to number 1. Just like CHMR's Ring Rust on Facebook, and post your vote in the appropriate thread. Check it out on the last Friday of this year and the first Friday of next year. Savage once completed Mortal Kombat for Super Nintendo with a PlayStation controller. And the Macho Man can simply walk into Mordor. Like me on Facebook, tinyurl.com/ringrust. Follow me on Twitter @MarkJabroni, and subscribe to Jabronology TV, youtube.com/fanboymarkjabroni. Now part of the Club Kayfabe creative community. So next up for the TLC pay-per-view, I guess NXT. Well, it's offered through some pay-per-view providers, is what they keep saying. So, I mean, WWE kind of put pay-per-view on the map, and now it's sort of edging it slightly off the map. It's like, no, sorry, excuse me, making some room here, and they got one of those big push brooms, and they're just gently nudging pay-per-view out of the room so they can bring in their new friend, WWE Network. So, anyway, so next up for my pre-preview of TLC sees a tag team match. And you know me, if you've been listening to my show for any particular length of time, I like naming tag teams, especially tag teams that don't have names. The Bar. Yeah, I called them International Powers because I figured it was a better Well, I called them that before they were the Bar. They weren't anything when they called them that. I just like, naming tag teams. Team Road Scholars was probably the closest thing to a decent tag team name, I think, in recent. Other than, American Alpha's fine, I guess. Revival, I'm not sure what I would have called them. What I usually like to do is I go to a Wikipedia page where it has the link for, like here, if I wanted to make up the tag team names now, I could go to the Wikipedia page for TLC, click on each of their names and open to a new tab, and then see if there's anything common, other than the feud they've been perpetrating in 205 Live and then apparently forgetting, because sure, why not? But instead I just looked at what I had in front of me and said, okay, these will do for tag team names. So, we have the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Jack Gallagher and the Brian Kendrick, versus Cars. Permit me to explain. Cedric Alexander and Rich Swann. C-A-R-S. Vroom vroom. Lightning McQueen. Ka-chow! So, anyway, that I got to make a Lightning McQueen reference. I do think that particular team is going to end up on top of... It's going to end up winning this match. I think it likely could go either way. It depends, I guess, on where they want to go with both teams. I mean, Cedric Alexander and Rich Swann haven't really been a team much, but Jack Gallagher and Brian Kendrick have been teaming over the past month or so, since Gentleman Jack has decided he's not going to be quite so much a gentleman anymore. So I'm going to predict that this will be one of the send the crowd home happy matches. So we'll say the good guys are going to win. So they'll ride in with their white hats and they'll kick some booty and Rudy Tooty and do a bit of dancing. I think Cedric Alexander can dance. I'm pretty sure he can. I don't know where I would have seen it, but I'm pretty sure he can. I think Triple H likes the way he dances. Anyway, you're listening to Ring Rust Redux on Jabronology TV. Now part of the Club Kayfabe creative community. Next match we got to hear through pre-preview for TLC on the WWE Network is the Cruiserweight title match. Kalisto be defending against the former champion Enzo Amore. So I do see that Kalisto is going to defend his title. Usually how I predict it. When I do a pre-preview and say, if there's a title on the line, usually the safest bet is that it's going to be a title defense. And he kind of just won it a little while ago, so I don't see him losing it just yet. But then again, Akira Tozawa just won the Cruiserweight title as well when he lost it. So that particular regard isn't necessarily a given. But I will, though, predict, all the same, Kalisto is going to successfully defend his title, at least for now. Continue with the feud, I think. Because whilst would Enzo Amore kind of be on 205 Live, I guess? Unless he's feuding for or holding the title. So, you're listening to Ring Rust Redux on Jabronology TV. Now part of the Club Kayfabe creative community. So second last match for the pre-preview of TLC on the WWE Network sees Alexa Bliss defending her women's title against Mickie James. Now normally, as with the previous match, what I would do is I would just predict, title defense, play it safe. This time around, though, I'm a fan of all four of the assets in this particular match. So, I do, while I do appreciate the work of the performances of Alexa Bliss usually, I think this time I'm going to have to go with my future ex-wife on this one. And predict that Mickie James is going to lay on top of Alexa Bliss for 30 seconds and then become happy. And that went somewhere different, didn't it?
Like me on Facebook, tinyurl.com/RayRust. Follow me on Twitter @MarkJabroni. And subscribe to Jabronology TV, youtube.com/fanboymarkjabroni.
So, one last thing on Ring Rust. I got a quick review here of the main event. A TLC match, 3-on-5 handicap. The Shield, which is Roman Reigns and, you know me, naming tag teams, Architect, Fringe, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, taking on Salvation Smarmy, which is The Miz, and The Bar, which is Sheamus, and Cesaro, and Monsters University, Braun Strowman and Kane. And even though it's 3-on-5, I think we all know who's going to win that match. And if you don't, you haven't been watching wrestling very long.
That's it for another show, kiddies. Check me out on Facebook, where you can keep track of all the news that's right on the mark, from around ringside to the latest concerts. See you at the shows. Later days.
This is 93.5 CHMR FM.